Hello and welcome to the Happiness Habits series. I am your host, Lauren Lindsay, and today we have an incredible guest with us called Jenny. Jenny, would you like to introduce yourself to us and just tell us a little bit who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay, hi, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Jen, I'm 35 and I live in South Wales with my daughter Lola. I'm a single mum and I also work in a couple of different jobs, predominantly network marketing, and I was working in a special needs school, but I'm now starting a brand new career in finance with a well-known bank. So yeah.
Good. You get that from me. Congratulations. That's amazing. Oh, well done. Okay, so as part of the Happiness Habits series, I interview people weekly, and the reason being is because I truly believe that stories shared heal ourselves, and they also heal other people that are ready to listen to it. And one of the things that I always ask everybody that comes on this program, this series, is on a rating or on a ratio of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the happiest you've been, whereabouts on average would you put yourself daily?
I would say around about an 8.
Yeah. Any reason why? Why not 10? Why not? I'm just curious. I'm curious because I'm at an 8 and I'm always curious to ask those that are at an 8 why as well.
I think because I'm kind of, I'm pretty much content with where I'm at in life at the minute. There's a couple of boxes that I still haven't ticked yet, but working towards, which I think will help me go up in the ratios of the rating then.
Perfect. So we have got a few questions that you have, I wouldn't say prepared because I know that you like the free flow. I'm just going to throw in a question here that's going to maybe just throw you a little bit. So first off, how are you today? How do you feel today? So you've said that your rating is an 8, and I'm also, most mornings now is an 8. It never used to be. It used to be really low. It used to be about a 2 or a 3, and that you're nodding gives me so many questions that I want to ask you, because the reason of how I've got to an 8, there's been many different tools and techniques, and I call them tools and anchors that I use, and I'm always intrigued for what works for you, because even though for me we have been in this place or where I felt not, I felt unhappy, and I share with how's got me out of that happiness. So what worked for you? But first, before we go into that, how are you today? How is everything? How are you feeling? There's so much going on in the world. How is your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel quite content, to be honest. I totally appreciate what's happening in the world at the moment, and it's, it isn't a situation that that I'd like for anybody to be going through. Personally, I feel very grateful to have my health in times such as what we're going through. I feel very grateful for my daughter's health. And yeah, I just feel quite happy within myself. I feel at peace. I used to suffer terribly with anxiety, clinical anxiety, for years and years. Sometimes it was controlled by medication. Other times I would try and control it myself and try and find things and ways to sort of manage that. So I'm quite surprised actually that given the current climate with everything that's going on, how well I am in myself. So yeah.
I love that. And I've been saying as well, so if anybody's watching this in the future and you're like, what are you talking about? We are talking about the COVID-19 that we're currently experiencing at the moment. And I have many conversations with Mark, and I'm like, just a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, as little time as that, had this come about then, my experience would be very different. I'm going to retract that. Even 12 months ago, 12 months would have been very, very different, because as you know, Jen, I'm also a support worker. I do training and assessing at the moment, but I do the night shifts. I go out in the residence home, in support homes, And that was my role just under 12 months ago. So had this been a year before, it would have looked very different for all of my family and everybody around me as well. So I truly understand what you mean about being grateful for obviously our health and what's going on. It's such an awful situation that everybody's facing. But how are we able to keep ourselves up? So I'm asking myself this question a lot at the minute. How do we keep our happiness levels up? How can I be in that high energy? Because there's a lot of resistance that comes up. I've had many days where I've worried or I've struggled, and I've had moments where I've been, that fear's come, and it's like, well, what if this was to happen?
Yeah.
It's not a part of going, oh, happy bubble, everything's okay. It's about recognizing, okay, this is what could be. But what if it wasn't that? What if it was the potential of what I decided? And that has worked massively for me. So what's working for you at the moment?
I think I'm quite a visual person, and so I'm very mindful of what I allow into my space mentally. So, for example, obviously with the media and everything that's going on at the moment, with everything, I limit myself. I limit myself on certain things that I just feel aren't going to serve me in a good way, and could potentially be triggers as well. Because for me, triggers are massive. Like, there's two types of triggers. There's the triggers that will give me the good feelings and happiness and peace and all those other things, and gratitude. And then there's the triggers that will inevitably try and trip me up, and bring me back to that kind of place of anxiety and fear and all the rest of it. So I think going just kind of like as just maturity really will bring out an awareness of what in life will crop me up and cause me not to feel happy or rob me of my peace. And I think, as I said, things like limiting myself from watching too much TV, what I'm reading online on my phone, certain people that I've had to, let go if I'm not on their wavelength. They're not on mine. That's completely fine. They're amazing people. It's just not, it's just not going to, they're not meant to be in my life for a long time, maybe just for a season, and just kind of being aware of that really, because it can be quite hurtful to become close to somebody, and you can't rely on somebody else for your happiness. You have to kind of just take a deep breath and just focus on, right, what can I do? How can I be in control of how I'm feeling? And it starts from as soon as you wake up in the morning, that moment. Like, I'm not a morning person at all, by the way. I'm really not. It takes me a while to kind of set myself up for the day. But I've noticed, if I don't start my morning routine in a certain way, mentally, spiritually, if I don't wake up in, none of us are perfect. I'm not going to wake up like, woohoo, let's go, whatever. I'm not, like, even the most earliest of morning people aren't like that all the time. But it's a choice. Happiness, I feel, for me, is a choice. Like, I have to choose to be happy, and it's a choice. I want to be happy. I am happy, but it's an active fight for me, as a battle of somebody who suffered with PTSD, who suffered with anxiety, who suffered with depression. And sometimes those words get used too often and aren't appreciated. When somebody's gone through serious trauma, or events have happened that have led to depression and anxiety, it's something that too many people use kind of off the cuff and don't really appreciate unless you've gone through that, what that really means to come through that and be in a place where you're happy again.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. And everybody has their own way of interpreting things, their own way of believing things, their own perspective of what things should be. And I fully agree with you. Even though we've had different experiences, I hear the emotion that comes through it, because I've experienced similar. And I think this is where people connect with each other, because we understand on the feeling level, regardless of the detail of what we've been through. So anxiety, depression, all of that, I've experienced it. Is very, very real, very real.
Yeah.
Live that life. but I've also been able to find what works for me to manage it as I go, and then to integrate it, to change it. So, and that's kind of, you know, why we're here today. So anybody that's watching this right now and thinking, I understand this, I'm understanding the concept, what is it that I need to do? So just before we go too far ahead, you said something, and I want to ask you a question around it. So I kind of, do you wake up happy every morning? You've touched on it briefly, but can you touch on it just a little bit more for me?
Sure. Okay, so the short answer is no. I strangely, considering how happy I am in myself, which as I said is an 8, you wouldn't believe, right? I'm going to share something with you now that happened to me last night. And if I hadn't have told you this, you wouldn't think that I'd be sitting here now, like as happy as I am. So about 1 o'clock this morning, I woke up and all of a sudden I was completely consumed by fear that something awful had happened to Lola or me, and that I wasn't going to see her again. So without going too morbidly into it, just in that moment at about 1 o'clock this morning, as I woke up, it wasn't a bad dream or anything. It was somewhere between being asleep and being awake. In that moment, I thought my world had ended. I thought this was it. There was no more. I'm not going to see Lola again. And the fear as a mum, as a single mum, that came over me was so horrific. I actually ran out of my bedroom about 1:30 this morning, ran into Lola's room, fell to my knees, crying my eyes out, looking at Lola as she's sleeping in bed, and I was just like, I can't, I couldn't snap out of it for whatever reason, and it's not the first time, so whatever that is. But anyway, and then now you wouldn't think it, because obviously I feel great, but in that moment of whatever that was, you know, I could have woke up this morning at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever time, and I could have just been absolutely like exhausted, which I was, but kind of choosing to allow that fear to manifest then throughout the whole day, which would have had an impact on this amazing series you're doing. I might not have been able to pull myself together to do it, but I refused after years after years of just certain anxieties and fears. I'm finally in a place where I'm like, no, it's almost like going back to school when I was bullied in school. And at the time, I wasn't like anything like I am now. I was so, you know, afraid of my own shadow, and hence why I was probably bullied so much. But I refuse to allow anything in my own mind to bully me or intimidate me and rob me of my peace. Like, I am not having that for my life. So when I woke up this morning, was I tired? Yes. Was I upset about what happened in the early hours this morning? Of course. Was I about to allow it to rob me of my peace and take me from as far as I've come to this point? Hell no. So I woke up this morning and I was just like, right, okay, let's go. Like, I have to rise above this. It's not easy, and there's going to be days where it's harder than others, but I choose happiness and I choose peace over anything else. And if I can help anyone else come to that place as well, then that'll just be incredible.
And that's the series wrapped up. Congratulations. I love how you explained how you lead yourself. And this is one of the things, I got stuck in this area of kind of like, there's something wrong, I need fixing, there's something wrong with me. And it was when I started leading myself the way you've just explained, making them choices, making them decisions in that moment, when I realized that, hang on a minute, I don't want to feel rubbish, I don't want to feel this way. And in that moment, it's making that change, isn't it? Changing it to a positive, or for me, it was changing it to a positive, changing it or distracting myself to something away from them thoughts. But that thought that you have, I've had many, many times. As a mother, I think, and I'd like to know if anybody's watching this, because it's not something I like to talk about, because there's a fear there. If I talk about it, what if something happens? So I'm glad that you brought it up. So if anybody's watching this, and as a mother or as a, you know, as a dad, do you have these thoughts where something could terribly go wrong, and where you know, that fear, that panic I've lived that. I felt that in my own way for my own children, and especially, as you know, we've touched on it, and I don't want this series to be about what's going on, but especially now, the slightest bit of a sniffle, the slightest bit of a cough or a cold, and it's like, what if? And then your mind just goes into this horrible place, a place where I don't want to be, where my whole energy just goes, "Ugh," and I'd rather just go to bed. And it's like you say, it's when we recognize that we can either sit in it and we can carry on thinking them thoughts, or we can go, hang on a minute, this is my thoughts in my head and they're not real, and then change it. And I just love how you talked, how you explained, how you walked yourself through that. That is really, really powerful, really powerful. So well done. So
thank you.
The next question is going to be is, do you think happiness lies within, or does it come from external things? I know your answer to this one, so I think I do. I could be wrong.
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think the ultimate, first point of happiness has to be internally. It has to be, because what you're doing otherwise is you're putting your expectation on external things, which ultimately will eventually just leave you feeling disappointed, because we just can't. Things go, you could buy a really nice sports car and be like, oh, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, it's lush, it's red, it's shiny, it's amazing. And then literally it could break down or something, or could go wrong, and then what, your happiness is gone because the car's broke down. Like, it just, things like that just it doesn't. No, I personally, my happiness, when I've been at my happiest, has always come from a place of self-worth, not relying on anyone else for anything. I'm not saying like kind of, oh, I can do it all, I'm fine, I don't need anybody. I don't mean in that sense. I just mean in my own happiness then, it's always come from inside, from me finally getting to a place where I no longer need to find it elsewhere. It starts with me, and then anything else then that comes along, be that a relationship, be that a job, be that I don't know what else makes me happy, makeup, I don't know, anything else, like extra type of like just add-ons then, externally, those kind of things are nice as extras, but that's not where I find my happiness. So
I love that explanation, and it's quite different to what I was expecting, to be honest, but I fully understand what you're saying. And it's like instant gratification. I see it as like the lipstick or the haircut. It does bring happiness. If I get I'm desperate for my haircut. Don't even ask what's going on with it today. This is me trying to do little curls and it just doesn't happen, so I shoved it up so I could come on, because it was taking me forever. But it was like happiness. If I get my haircut, I'm truly happy for a good few days, until it kind of like goes out of style, and it when you kind of lose that thing. But then you're so right. For me, it's about having that place inside, that peace, that kind of that understanding that no matter what, everything's going to be okay. And for me, that kind of brings that happiness. I get to choose that I want to continuously feel that way. So the choices and the habits that I do then go in that direction, and that's kind of how I lead myself through that. So I love how you explain it both, because it is true. A lot of people just say, oh yeah, of course it's all about you, and money shouldn't matter, and this doesn't matter. But of course it's all kind of part of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
you okay there? I weren't sure, the signal's just gone.
I've had to relocate to my lounge floor because my battery was going on the phone.
That's okay. So
can you still see, is the lighting okay?
Yeah, you are a tiny bit dark, but you've got a lovely couch, and I love that.
Oh, let me hang on. If I face the window, I'll be back. I have to hold my. Sorry. There you go.
Right. So, what does happiness mean to you?
I think it means kind of going back on a little bit on what the last question was, just coming to a place where I just feel, I think gratitude definitely plays a massive factor in happiness for me. So sometimes in the past, I've I've kind of put so much pressure on myself in certain areas with work, or with thinking that I need to be at a certain place in my life. You know, I should own my own home, or I should have a better car, or all those kind of material things which aren't anything about who I am. So I think for me, happiness is definitely coming to a place of knowing what makes me happy, not what is expected of me, I guess.
I love
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's about what feels good for me, what lights me up, not what my mum wants me to be, not what my boss said I am, or not the person that used to bully me, or the people that used to bully me. It's not their voice in my head anymore. I get to decide. I get to create it. I love that. That's so powerful. So do you believe you can be happy again after experiencing trauma or grief?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, obviously,
living proof, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a case of, I'm here. If I can do it, so can you.
Exactly. I mean, I'm really blessed because I've got friends of mine who've been through some things that I think, oh, well, if I'd gone through that, I don't think I'd be where they are, type of thing. Because we do, I have so much respect for people who've gone through anything, because some people can kind of grade situations or traumas or experiences and go, oh, I could probably go through that, but I couldn't go through this. But in reality, like, trauma is trauma for everybody, no matter what that is. And to be able to see somebody who's gone through something and experienced it and come out in such an amazing way, like, where they're so just grateful, I think, of life, irrespective of what's happened, and that they're just amazing examples of people to be there to help others and to go through that. And yeah, you can be happy again, because those experiences, as horrendous as they might have been, or hurt as you were in that moment, that doesn't define who you are. It's a part of your life that you've gone through, but you grow through it. You've gone through it, you grow through it, and you're then able to just give back, I think, and just be like, wow, look back on it and think, wow, yeah, I am happy, and it was horrible, but I'm fine, and I'm focusing on the future now. So,
and I'm a better person and a stronger person for going through it. So I love that. I really do love that. So what affects your level of happiness?
Again, I think it comes down to who or what I kind of surround myself with then. So if I'm surrounded by mood hoovers, like people that are just literally out to just have no sense of gratitude or appreciation for anything that's in their life, and we all have bad days, but like, when somebody's like that constantly, as much as you want to be there and try and pick them up or whatever, there comes a point where that just isn't going to happen. So I'm very mindful of kind of my circle then, if I don't kind of really use that term that much, but if I'm mindful of like kind of who's in my life, and Lola's obviously very much so, Lola's. And what was the question again?
What affects your level of happiness? You're answering it beautifully. I love your explanation.
Just just like who I've got around me, what vibe they're giving off, what I can give to others as well, and then that just kind of that will affect my happiness. As I said, like, even my own family, like, don't get me wrong, they're my family and I love them, but there's been times where I've had to distance myself from them for like maybe just a couple of days, because I've noticed that my energy's being drained and therefore my happiness levels have gone down. So I've had to take myself out of a situation and just sort of switch off for a few days, or however long it takes, a day, 2 days, whatever, and just think, right, okay, and just like I like listening. I say like a lot, sorry. I enjoy listening to mindfulness music. certain inspirational like speakers, or I might just want to just completely submerse myself into a good book, or just whatever it is that just kind of brings those happiness levels back up again. And then I'm able to give more. I feel like I've filled myself up again, and I'm ready to be able to help others feel happy as well then.
I love that. And you give so many golden nuggets then as well. There was a few things in there. There was mindfulness music, there was reading a good book, there was taking yourself out of situations where they were, you know, crossing your boundaries, so you brought yourself out of it to protect yourself. Really, really good tools that if anybody's watching this and they're like, how do I do this? It sounds like that's not going to help. It's so simple, but it gets us away from the situation. It puts us into a different mindset. It changes our perspective. And when we can take that emotion away from, it's that same old saying, isn't it? When emotions are high, intelligence is low. So no matter what situation we're going through, depending on how we react, is going to be the outcome. So if we're reacting in a kind of frustrated state, we're going to get that back to us. That's how I believe it to be true. So I just love, you just give so many golden nuggets, and there was so much in that. So we are coming to the last question, and I've just loved this. I could literally just ask you so many questions because they're so relatable, and you're just so, I'm gonna use the word human, but I mean more real. I mean authentic. It's a kind of, you know, you're just you, and this is how I am, and this is how I think, and I'm doing amazing. And I love how you see your progress, because I think that's huge. It's huge in all of us. You know, we don't give ourselves recognition for how far we have come. And even though we can always celebrate ourselves more, we can always, you know, do more for ourselves, recognizing just how far we have come keeps us at that kind of going, hey, I've got this far, imagine how far I can get. And it always pushes that, doesn't it? You've done absolutely incredible. And obviously there's bits that none of us know, and you know more. So there's just so much more incredibleness there that you haven't shared because of the timing and different things obviously on this series. And I just know there's so much more for you to share. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to ask you one more question, but I just wanted to keep it a little bit separate and just let you know that I just think you're absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Pieces. It's a little bit different than what I'd normally ask, but what is there to be happy about in the world given the current situation? What are you finding that's working for you?
Do you know what? I've got to be honest, like when this all first started, obviously for us, well, for me and Lola, we went into official lockdown about, I think it was 4 weeks ago tomorrow was her last day in school. So when it first started, I was quite sort of negative about it and thinking, oh, right, so school's shut for however long, and what am I going to do about work? And kind of, I mean, these are obviously normal kind of worries that anyone will have. You can't get away from that. But I've been quite surprised in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks that I'm finding like happy, like my arm's going dead, sorry, happiness and gratitude in areas that I didn't even know existed. So for me, years ago, I used to be a lot more creative than I have been. I think in practice then. I know that creativity is something that's in me, but I've just never really sort of opened up to that. And over the last like few weeks, I've started just becoming more creative again. Just little things like out in the garden, when I've been doing my essential shopping. You know, maybe if something happens to go into the basket that might look nice in the garden and things like that, making it like a really nice space for Lola to play. What else? Yeah, I just kind of not having a screen on all the time. Like I was worried that Lola was going to be just completely tied to her iPad. And the funny thing is it stopped working. It literally just stopped. And I thought, oh no, what's she going to do? But she's starting to do things like, you know, sit there and she'll colour like a really nice picture, or she'll want to do painting. And I think, wow, it's become more apparent now since the lockdown how much of our time is spent separately. You could have a household with like 6 family members who may just pass each other, you know, with go into work, or they probably don't even sit and eat together. And now we have to sit together and eat together, or we have to, you know, enjoy each other. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that you know, if we take our eyes off the sadness and the that is going to happen with the situation. And of course, I've got full respect to people who are, you know, going through this, losing loved ones or getting sick. But in the meantime, because sadly those things are going to happen anyway, and we have to just kind of go with that when it happens. But in the meantime, if we focus on the times that we're spending with family and loved ones that we may not have done before, or we may have taken for granted, you just strip it all back to the basics of what life should be about, and that's spending it with the people that you love the most, doing basic things. That doesn't, you know, you don't need to have loads of money in the bank to sit there and do, like, you know, write a nice poem or draw a nice picture with your kids, or, you know, play, like Lola started to play with her Toy Story toys again. And do you know, it's making me so much happier in myself, because I'm not stretching myself thinly, trying to do this, trying to do that, you know. And it just yeah, it's just a nice feeling. So
I love that, and I'm very similar. Obviously we different, you know, we do different things, but for me, one of my biggest concerns was obviously having us both working from home and the kids at home, and how are we going to manage it, because obviously I'm still working part-time as well.
yeah,
And it's just worked out really amazing. So Mark's off on furlough, so he's got more time with the kids, and he's just doing brilliant at daddy daycare. And it's just something that, because I've always kind of took control, I've took charge of the kids situation, the childminders, when it kind of comes to me at the start, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I kind of put all the pressure on myself. And then
yeah.
reality is hang on a minute, it wasn't any way how I expected to be. And the kids love it. The kids love it. And I'm just like, I'm in awe sometimes. And I'm just like, why didn't I think of that? And I just think it's incredible. So even though, like you say, I fully understand, and I'm sending so much love to anybody who this is affecting closely.
Yeah.
So I do, you know, it is affecting me closely as well. My sister's a nurse, she's out on the front line. Both of my aunties are. We have different, you know, everybody has somebody who they know. So we're certainly not saying it's a case of, oh, just get on with it, but it's how do we manage it? And it's, for me, it was really triggering at the start, but then it's like all change, we adapt, don't we? So the things that we do now, it's like you've just said, we get more time to do the things we want to do, to create that life by design, to create happiness, instead of going to work, coming home, doing everyday day-to-day bits. And we also, I've not watched much of the news, but there is positive out there as well about, like, the atmosphere clearing up, and, you know, seas and rivers becoming clearer because the boats aren't on them. And when you kind of look around, you just think, hopefully although there's a lot of negativity that's coming with us, when it's over, because it will be, because everything passes, there could be a lot of good, a lot of people not having to travel to places just for the sake of traveling, which is going to stop risk. It's going to bring all of the environmental factors. You know, there's so many different areas this could benefit if people do it properly. But for me, I tend not to get involved in that, because it's not in my control. I don't know enough information, and I'm not interested in getting stuck in the politics side of it. But it's definitely about keeping yourself, or for me, it's about keeping myself happy, keeping myself focused on creating that life. How do I want to feel better? And I just love your perception as well. So is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I'm just trying to think. No, I mean, as I said, like, if I can just leave kind of a final message, if you like, with anybody that's able to identify or relate to anything I've said, is just to know you're not on your own. You know, you could be on your own, like I'm on my own with Lola, but you know what I mean. You're not on your own in your own thoughts. You know, you may have never found anybody who's ever been able to identify or relate to how you're feeling. And I just want to encourage anyone that's watching this, you know, I'm on Facebook. I'm happy to, that if anybody wants to reach out to me and just wants to chat, or is feeling just, that they could, just want to, like I say, just want to reach out and have a chat, and then that's fine. That's what I'm here for. I'd love to know that there's people out there that I'm able to help in any way I can. So just, with this situation, whatever, just know that you're not on your own, and if you're going through a time where there's something going on, it will pass. There's nothing worse than somebody saying that to you when you're in that place, but let me just tell you from experience that it will pass, and there are people that care, and you will be happy. And I think just encourage people to look at what is it in your own home, in your own garden, or wherever you are, just find the little things that make you happy, like coffee for me, or sunshine this morning, things like that they're there. Those things are there. They were there before, but you notice it more now because we are so isolated. You appreciate things more. So if you're happy in the small things now, then you're going to be ecstatic when the big things happen.
I love that. What a perfect finish. Perfect finish. Thank you so much for your time. I love every single question. I love your perspective. I love the way you see the world, and you are just truly beautiful, and I can't wait to continue following you on your journey. Anybody that wants to get in touch with Jen, like she said, I will put the links below as well, so click on them, have a word with her, get into her vibes, get into her energy. She is absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for taking the time out today, and we will catch up very soon, and I will see everybody later.